you're referring to the GEC, right? Where that government body was created. The gentleman who was running it, he said that, there's a master narrative, and this master narrative is what we call history, and and propaganda aimed at the populace is a good thing. But here's the thing, propaganda was actually banned. It was illegal. It was illegal to do propaganda against the American people. John F. Kennedy even warned about that. He said, like, anything that was done in secrecy and darkness
Mm.
was, contrary to the principles of a republic. For a republic to be able to operate, you need true information to have that feedback mechanism. And so if everybody's operating from false premises, they can't make informed decisions. Kind of like with COVID, you can't make an informed decision because they didn't tell you about the actual contraindications and iatrogenic effects of the therapeutic that they were kind of pushing on people. And that, by the way, as well, we just did some reporting on the New American side about something called ARPA-H. And ARPA-H was an ARPA program. Many of the viewers right now might be aware of DARPA, the
Mm.
Defense, what is it, Advanced Research Project Agency. And so ARPA is like a smaller kind of, subsidiary of that. And a lot of different organizations within the military have their own ARPA program. Like there's an ARPA program for geoengineering, an ARPA program for finance, an ARPA program for healthcare. And it was called ARPA-H. And Biden just mentioned that in the State of the Union and went over everybody's head. And so we're finding out now that COVID was run by the military. It was run by, the Defense Department. And so the actual healthcare people were third down in the chain of command. So everybody was like yelling at Pfizer or yelling at Moderna or this. They had no power. They took the money. They were happy to take the money and kind of be the front man, but they were actually third down in the chain of command. So it's really interesting, like, to discover, like, how it happened, why it happened, the weaponization of healthcare, the
Mm.
manipulation, and how the media, as used by that military industrial complex, was used to promote these things, and the algorithmic manipulations that Cass Sunstein oversaw. And they just made a reference to that as well in the COP27 document. Human Development Report 2021-2022 was the title of it, and that was for the climate change conference that just happened a couple months back. And they said that COVID was very instrumental in teaching us the techniques for propagandizing the public, how to shut down debate, how to, like, close
Mm.
down all discussion. So, I mean, they're learning, but they're learning the wrong lessons, like the elites.
Well, it's I learned that apparently it's not very hard to sway and to influence and to basically coerce an entire industry, and by that I mean the medical institutions, into doing all the wrong things. I mean, they shut down the hospitals to everything but one disease, which also happened to have every symptom. Every symptom that exists, like normal
Exactly.
people would have, could be that. It was like, that was just like crazy. I had something else going on, and I remember it being such a big deal, so hard to get seen. And obviously now we're seeing the results of that. People, the neglect has caught up and whatnot. And so it's like, in a way, you kind of see why they think it's easy and they want to like hurt us like cattle. But it's like, I want to have more hope in people. I want to be able to think that if people were presented with good arguments, that they would be like, oh, I see. Like, yeah, that doesn't make sense. You're right. And I know we have a lot of that. My impression is, and I want to know if you agree or disagree, is that my impression is that if it weren't for the overt propaganda, if it weren't surrounding you everywhere, whether it be academia, whether it be media, more people would actually just say what they really believe, which is contrary to almost everything you see in the media. They'd be like, "Yeah, girls can't be boys." It's like, "Yeah, I don't agree with that lifestyle," or there's corruption there, or I think the vaccines are harmful. But I think there's a lot of people who are not saying that still because they don't know they're allowed to.
Yeah, well, you mentioned Mark Crispin Miller a little back, and Mark Crispin Miller, in his foreword to Propaganda by Edward Bernays, he said that the enemy of the propagandist is the investigative journalist. And so, like, programs like this are excellent for kind of counteracting propaganda. This is the antidote to, like, kind of like the mental malware that they upload into people. And So, I mean, the best that we can do is, you mentioned Robert Welch earlier. The best that we can do is education. And I think James Madison had an argument with Thomas Jefferson about a republic and how hard republics are to run because it requires an educated populace, an intelligent populace, an engaged
Hmm.
populace. And he said, well, if they're not, up to that level, we've got to educate them up to that level. That's the solution, not just making everybody slaves. And so yeah, it's very hard. It's an uphill battle, but it's worth it. It's a battle that's well worth it, and it's a battle that you, Paul, you do every day, and
And
very very impressed by some of the stuff that you put out. So
well, I mean, so yeah, speaking of that, you guys, by you guys, I mean us here at the JBS, we launched a new daily show to help with this, because clearly we're going on and we're saying we're here to produce truth, to combat and to neutralize the lies and the propaganda. Of course, the JBS has been doing this since its inception in 1958, and actually quite before, because Robert Welch, as you probably already know, he launched the American Opinion, the predecessor to the New American, and I believe 1957, somewhere before he actually launched the JBS, knowing full well that what we need is an educated populace. And because if he had such confidence that if we had people who actually knew the truth, that would automatically start paving or redirecting the path of the nation, and we still we believe that, and we're seeing that. Steve Bonta, executive senior editor at the TNA, he wrote an interesting piece about 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago during the battle. Remember the struggle for the speakership, and his only point was that this is happening because we have 20 very constitutionally oriented legislators. And he said that's more than we've had in a long, long time. And he attributes that to the education efforts of the New American, of the JBS. But going back now, we have the New American TV, right? The New American TV with Rebecca Terrell. We just launched that. You're kind of you play a major role in that, but all our folks do. You want to tell us about that?
yeah, it's just a new daily show that we're starting, just as you said, Paul. And we just go over the news of the day and kind of try to show, the deeper systems. There was a woman, she's a bad girl, called Danella Meadows, and she unfortunately was part of the Club of Rome, but she wrote a really interesting book on systems theory called Thinking in Systems, Cybernetics. And in there, she talks about systems. Like systems are algorithms that repeat, right? Like our Constitution is a system. It's an algorithm, right? So every 4 years, a president is elected. Every 6 years, a senator. Every 2 years, a congressman, et cetera. And it repeats. Or you have systems in the sociological sphere, like Christmas. Every December 25th, Christmas comes around, or every July 4th, Independence Day. So these are algorithms that you set in various institutions. And so she said, if you understand the systems, then you can see the repetitions. You can see, and she said, if it doesn't repeat, it's not a system, right? So people are always like, oh, history repeats itself or history rhymes. No, systems repeat themselves. And because they repeat themselves, once you understand the system, you can anticipate what's going to happen. And so, people aren't psychic, but if you understand, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, red, blue, you can guess, okay, blue, if I know that pattern, blue is likely to be the next in that series. And so she said the evening news is almost worthless because she said that these are data points, random data points out of context. And she said, and they do not show the underlying system. And so we at the New American TV with Rebecca Terrell, we're trying to kind of show like the daily news cycle, but then to go a little bit deeper and show the underlying systems so that you understand why this happened, not just that it happened, but why did it happen. And hopefully we'll do better at that. And we have various segments as well, related to some of our other great reporting and stuff, some really fantastic journalism and panels on issues issues of the day. So hopefully you guys will tune in and we will help combat the propaganda by being
Yeah.
the enemies of the propagandists, which means we're going to be blacklisted